You already know that smoking on your balcony or throwing a life jacket overboard will get you kicked off a cruise. Those are rookie mistakes. They're the cliches everyone writes about in brochures. But what if I told you that a simple act, something most passengers do innocently, thinking they're just joking, could lead to the captain having you escorted off in handcuffs at the next port? Today, I'm exposing the 7 unforgivable rules that no one ever talks about. My name is Kai. I've worked on these massive floating cities for 10 years. In that time, I've been in close contact with multiple departments, from guest services to security. And I can tell you this, a cruise ship is not a resort on land. This is a mini country in the middle of the ocean, subject to international law, with its own hierarchy and its own red lines. On every cruise, I witness what we call the walk of shame. It's that moment when the security team quietly escorts a passenger from their cabin to the ship's exit, usually to hand them over to local police at the next port. The expression on those passengers' faces is always the same: shock, regret, and the desperate plea, "But I didn't know." Not knowing is not an excuse. On a ship, we have rules that are unforgivable. These are violations that directly threaten the safety of the ship or its crew, and our tolerance level for them is 0. Today, I'm going to tell you about those 7 deadly sins that you won't find in the brochure. If you don't want your vacation to turn into a nightmare, listen to me very carefully. Of course, I'm not listing the obvious crimes, like trying to bring drugs or weapons on board, or physically assaulting someone. That's stupidity, not a mistake. I'm talking about the actions that seem innocent but have disastrous consequences. Here are 7 guaranteed ways to get thrown off a cruise ship. Rule 1. The man overboard. Joke. Playing with emergencies. Let's start with that innocent joke I mentioned in the intro. You're walking on the deck with your friend, and to prank them, you suddenly yell, "Oh my God!" Someone fell overboard. Or even worse, you pick up one of those red emergency phones on the deck, yell, "Man overboard!" and hang up. It was just a joke, right? Number. The instant you do that, before you can even finish the word joke, the ship's entire operational system goes to red alert. A man overboard call is one of the most serious, chaotic moments on a ship. The bridge immediately moves to stop the ship's massive engines and begin an emergency turn maneuver in the middle of the ocean. This means reversing multi-million-dollar engines. The ship's entire security and response team scrambles to their assigned stations within seconds. Do you know what happens because of your joke? First, the ship comes to a halt. This means the entire ship's schedule is delayed by hours, maybe even days. We could miss the next port. The vacation plans of thousands of passengers are ruined because of your momentary stupidity. Second, a full ship panic and head count begins. An announcement is made for all passengers to return to their cabins or go to their muster stations. The crew has to physically count all 6,000 people on board. This is a logistical nightmare that takes hours. Third, and worst of all, you destroy our chances of saving someone who actually falls overboard. It's the story of the boy who cried wolf. When you waste our resources on a false alarm, you cripple our ability to respond to a real emergency. What's the consequence? This is not treated as a joke. It's treated as direct interference with the navigation and safety of the vessel. You are identified on security cameras within seconds. Security detains you in your cabin. And yes, at the next port, the captain will hand you over to local police to be charged with endangering the vessel. That scenario with the handcuffs? That is this. There is no forgiveness for this. Ever. Rule 2. Using fire sprinklers as coat hangers, tampering with safety equipment. This one is so common, it drives us insane. You get to your cabin, you take a shower, and you look for a place to dry your wet swimsuit or a few hand-washed items, and you spot the perfect place, that little metal nozzle on the ceiling, the fire sprinkler. What's the big deal? It's just a little hanger, you think. That little hanger is an incredibly sensitive safety device designed to burst with heat or pressure. It can be broken by something as simple as the weight of a wet t-shirt. And what happens if that sprinkler breaks? It assumes there's a fire. It doesn't just spray water in your cabin, it unleashes a high-pressure torrent of stagnant, rusty, and foul-smelling water into dozens of cabins on that line. This isn't clean shower water. This is brown, stinking water that's been sitting in the pipes. Not just your cabin, but your neighbors and the cabins below you are flooded within minutes. Mattresses, carpets, luggage, electronics, all destroyed. I once saw a passenger hang their tuxedo from a sprinkler to steam it. 18 cabins on that deck were rendered uninhabitable. It caused over $100,000 in damage. Passengers' vacations were ruined. They had to be moved to spare cabins, sometimes even in the crew quarters. Is there any forgiveness for this? Absolutely not. This is willful destruction of ship property and safety equipment. The cost of repairing that system and renovating those cabins, often exceeding $10,000, is billed directly to you. And, of course, you are disembarked at the next port. That's not even mentioning the legal action the cruise line will take against you for the damages. Use the clothesline in your shower to dry your swimsuit. That little metal nozzle on the ceiling could be the most expensive hanger of your life. Rule 3. Threatening or harassing the crew. This one is the most personal for me. Many passengers think the money they paid gives them the right to do anything. Is the service slow? They yell. Is their favorite drink out of stock? They curse. But there's a big difference between being angry about bad service and crossing the unforgivable line. That red line is the moment the complaint becomes personal.
Calling a bartender an idiot makes you an unpleasant passenger. Threatening a bartender with, "I'll have your job, what's your name, I'll finish you," gets you thrown off the ship. Touching a crew member inappropriately, making playful but unwanted advances, or making sexual comments. This is the moment tolerance becomes zero. Why? Because we, the crew, are strictly protected under international maritime law, the MLC, Maritime Labor Convention. This is our home. We live here. We work 12-hour days, thousands of miles from our families. Your vacation is our workplace and our home. No one, absolutely no one, has the right to make us feel unsafe in our own home.
The moment a passenger verbally abuses a crew member, uses a racial slur, or physically threatens them, that passenger is no longer a guest. They are a security threat. At that moment, all that crew member has to do is make an Alpha Team call on their radio. That's the code name for the ship's security team. Within seconds, you will be surrounded by plainclothes security officers. The incident is reported. The captain is informed. The cruise line's zero-tolerance policy is activated. Your excuse of, "I was just angry," will not be accepted. At the next port, your relationship with the ship is terminated. It's that simple. Anyone who disrespects us, anyone who threatens our safety, cannot stay in our home. Rule 4. Lying on the health declaration. This, especially in recent years, has become one of the most serious unforgivable offenses. When you board the ship, you fill out a health declaration form. Have you experienced fever, vomiting, or diarrhea in the last 48 hours? The passenger feels a little off just hours before their vacation. It's probably just something I ate, they think. I've paid thousands of dollars, I can't miss this. And they check the little box. No. This is not a white lie. This is a biological bomb thrown into a floating city of 6,000 people. A cruise ship is a closed ecosystem. A highly contagious gastrointestinal virus, like norovirus, spreads through this closed environment at an incredible speed. Your little stomach bug can lead to hundreds of passengers, and most critically, dozens of crew members getting sick within 48 hours. When the kitchen staff gets sick, we have to close restaurants. When the housekeeping staff gets sick, rooms can't be cleaned. When the engineers in the engine room get sick, the safety of the ship is compromised. When an outbreak begins, we declare Code Red on the ship. This is the moment your vacation ends. The buffet is closed, all food is served to you by staff, pools and hot tubs are shut down, all social activities are canceled. The ship becomes a floating quarantine zone. And if it is discovered that you are the source of this outbreak, that you lied on your health declaration, which is traceable through camera footage and the ship's doctor's reports, the consequences are catastrophic. Not only will you be disembarked at the next port, you can be billed a massive fine, often tens of thousands of dollars, for the cost of the ship-wide quarantine, the special sanitation procedures, and the damage to the cruise line's reputation. And believe me, the cruise line's lawyers are very good at getting that money from you. Don't risk your vacation, but more importantly, don't risk the health of thousands of other people. Rule 5. Entering crew-only areas. This is another one of those innocent adventure-seeking behaviors. It usually happens under the influence of alcohol. The passenger gets curious about the ship's mysterious corridors. I wonder where the crew lives. What's behind that crew-only door? And they slip through the first unlocked door they find. This is not a game. This is a very serious security violation under the ISPS code, International Ship and Port Facility Security Code, which changed the maritime world after 9/11. Beyond those doors is not your vacation space. It's the heart of the ship. The engine room, the control rooms, the water purification plants, the massive galley prep areas, and our living quarters. These areas are sterile for the safety of the ship. We don't know why you're there. Are you a curious passenger? Or a saboteur trying to harm the vessel? Are you a drunk adventurer or a terrorist? It is our job to assume the worst. The moment you step through that door, hidden cameras all over the ship are recording you. The security team is instantly mobilized. When you are caught, the excuse, "I was just looking around," is not accepted. Trying to enter the bridge or the engine room without authorization is the equivalent of trying to break into an airplane's cockpit. The result? Detention. An interrogation in the captain's office. And at the next port, being handed over to local authorities on the charge of threatening the security of the vessel. Those crew-only doors are there to protect the thousands of lives on board, not to satisfy your curiosity. Rule 6. Interfering with the ship's navigation. This is a new and unforgivable rule brought on by technology. You have a brand new drone and you want to get that magnificent, epic shot of the ship leaving port. Or you use that powerful laser pointer you brought to light up the sea or other ships at night. These are not great social media content or fun toys. These are potential weapons. When you fly that drone from the ship without authorization, you send a jolt of panic through the officers on the bridge. The risk of that device hitting the ship's radar, getting tangled in navigation equipment, or falling on a passenger's head is an unacceptable risk. Flying drones in most ports and from a ship is strictly forbidden without written permission. But the laser pointer. That is so much worse. Imagine shining that little green light into the pitch-black bridge of your ship or a passing ship. That light can temporarily blind the officer at the helm. This is the same as shining a laser at an aircraft's pilot, and it's a federal crime in many countries. In that moment, the officer could lose control of the ship, leading to a collision with a reef or another vessel. You are risking 5,000 lives for your fun. When this is detected, and it will be, there is no forgiveness, no warning, no exception. Your equipment is confiscated and you are thrown off the ship. This is a rule the ship's captain will never, ever forgive. Rule 7. Leaving children unattended in a dangerous manner. This is perhaps the most heartbreaking of them all. And sadly, it happens far more often than you'd think. Parents decide to go to the casino, a show, or the bar for just an hour, after their children are asleep in the cabin. Sometimes, even worse, they lock the children in the room and leave. This is not a parenting choice. This is a crime. A ship's cabin is not a house. In an unexpected emergency, those children cannot get out. They won't know what to do in a fire alarm. Or, in our worst nightmare scenario, the child wakes up, can't find their parents, panics, and heads for the only other exit they see, the balcony door. Let me tell you a real story from last year. A steward heard crying in the hallway. They knocked on the door. No answer. Using their emergency key, they opened the door to find a 4-year-old girl who had opened the balcony door, used a chair as a climbing stool, and was actively trying to climb over the balcony railing. A tragedy was averted by mere seconds. The parents? They were at a bar on the other side of the ship. When we witness this, it stops being a family matter. It becomes child endangerment and activates the ship's security protocols. Security is called, the parents are found, an incident report is filed. The captain has the right to decide that these parents are a risk to everyone on board, because a distracted crew is a danger to all. Those parents were disembarked at the next port, and a report was filed with the local Child Protective Services. Their excuse of, they were asleep, meant nothing. The ship's Kids Club services exist for a reason. Use them. But never ever leave a child locked in a cabin alone. So there you have it. 7 guaranteed ways to get thrown off a cruise. As you can see, most of these aren't stupid rules. They are fundamental protocols that allow thousands of people to live together safely in the middle of the ocean. A cruise ship is not a fantasy island where rules are suspended. It is a complex machine where discipline and rules are vital. Knowing these rules makes you a tactical passenger, because the best tactic is preventing your vacation from being cut short. Know these red lines and respect them. Remember, your vacation is our home and our workplace. As long as you respect this home, we will do everything in our power to give you an unforgettable vacation. My name is Kai. I know the red lines on these ships. Now, so do you. Travel smart and stay safe.